as I calmly sit and wait for Arcane Season 2 to come out. No, who am I kidding? I'm not sitting calmly and I'm not waiting patiently. In fact, I'm stricken with anxiety and I do not like the frown on Caitlyn's face in the new trailer. So I feel the strong compulsion to launch into extensive speculations about Cait and Vi's relationship on the internet, or else I will internally combust. So if you're like me, have a seat and let's try to calm each other's anxieties. With the release of the new trailer, we saw a radical change in Caitlyn. Admittedly, she was one of the most single-faceted characters in Season 1, where all the other characters contain a duality of characteristics, with both qualities as well as shortcomings. Caitlyn mostly hovered on the positive side of the spectrum. Many have called her a goody two-shoes, and I agree. There was very little of the typical Arcane contradiction and duality in her character. That would only mean that her arc was going to be developed in Season 2, and oh boy are we in for a ride. With the new development of her mother most certainly dying because of Jinx's missile, we see a new side of Caitlyn, fueled by anger, rage, and resentment. What does this mean for the budding relationship between her and Vi? Will they be able to put aside their differences and consciously choose for one another, even though that choice seems extremely difficult to make? Or will they give in to the also-consuming feelings of rage and betrayal and let their differences create a rift between them that will become impossible to close? I'll explore 3 different scenarios, which are my speculations as to how their storyline might evolve in Season 2. These are based on all of the information we have so far and contain my own opinion, so if you'd prefer to avoid spoilers, this is the moment to jump off. Before diving into the scenarios, let's have a look at each character's motivation in Season 2. For Vi, we have number 1, protect Jinx. Even though her arc in Season 2 will very likely involve her learning to let go of Powder and forging a new identity for herself, I don't think she'll ever be able to give up on her sister as long as she lives. Number 2, stay with Caitlyn, obviously, and continue developing their relationship. Number 3, prevent word damage. Even though in Season 1 we see her ready to fight, ready to participate in a revolution against Piltover, I think at this moment in time, based on her prison experience as well as Vander's teachings, and seeing what has become of Zaun under the influence of Silco and, by extension, Jinx, she will try to prevent violence as much as possible and protect innocent people from both cities. Now for Caitlyn. If we were to mirror her motivations to Vi's, first we would have avenge her mother, which will likely be the primary driver of the rift between her and Vi. Second, she'll similarly want to stay with Vi and develop their romantic and working relationship. And third, as her role will ultimately evolve into her game version as Sheriff of Piltover, she'll have an immense drive to protect her city and its people, both from internal threats like Jinx and the Chem Barons, as well as external in the form of the Noxian army. Now, at this point, it is almost certain that their relationship is headed towards some kind of betrayal from either side because of the conflicts of interest, strong personalities, and the complicated nature of things. The question is how and if they will be able to overcome them and achieve forgiveness. The confrontation that we see in the new trailer that happens between the sisters in the temple-like cave seems to be the finale of Act 1 of the new season. Vi seems to have convinced Caitlyn to let her be part of her squad and let her go after Jinx alone, most likely with a promise that she'll be the only one to be able to capture her. As they fight, you can see the level of discomfort and pain on Vi's face as she approaches Jinx. She will not have the strength to land the final punch and she will lose the fight with Jinx. In this picture, released separately from the trailer, we see Caitlyn in what appears to be the same location, the same cave with the same big pillars. Her mouth agape, she looks contradicted, hurt, surprised, and dare we say betrayed. This is probably the moment Cait arrives at the scene to help Vi capture her sister like initially agreed, but Vi throws herself in front of her shot, or net, protecting Jinx and ultimately betraying Cait. As a result, Caitlyn gives in to her newly fueled rage, which leads her to align forces with Ambessa, giving into her manipulations and allowing the Noxian army to enter Piltover to wage war against Zaun. Having failed both her sister and her lover, Vi enters her dark arc, of which we found out from the session at Annecy. She has lost her meaning in life, she is stricken with the guilt of not having been able to protect her sister and regret at having betrayed her lover. She has always been a protector, but now that there's no one left to protect, what is there left for her? If she's a fighter, who or what is she fighting for? She starts hallucinating Caitlyn after each self-abusive episode, while at the same time beginning to internalize that her sister is now her own person who makes her own decisions and things can never go back to the way they were. In the fog of her mind, Caitlyn once again emerges as the answer to her torment as she hopes to regain some meaning based on their relationship. She comes back and tries to reconcile with Caitlyn. They start hunting Jinx together. However, Vi admits to Caitlyn that she can never fully turn against her sister, but that she is willing to work alongside Caitlyn to both prevent more violence that Jinx might cause, as well as rekindle her relationship with Cait. They work together, trying to stop destruction in the city, but Vi never directly targets her sister, or always inadvertently lets her escape. Cait cannot reconcile her duty to the city with Vi's unwillingness to commit to capturing her sister, so they continue working alongside each other but never take further steps into realizing their love because of their conflicting interests and inability to give up their integrity. It's a bittersweet ending in which their love lives on but is never materialized. Their proximity and loyalty to each other as work partners only a mere whisper of the great love that they could have realized together. The summary of this scenario would be: I cannot be with you if you don't commit. The themes: integrity, identity, and perhaps stubbornness and inflexibility. However, in this version, we do have a small chance at a happy ending, where Cait is able to put aside her clashing motives and choose for her relationship with Vi instead of the city or her mother. This is not completely unlikely either, as we've seen Cait already very receptive to Vi's struggles and understanding of her motivation to protect Jinx. We see this in the last episode of Season 1, where she has the opportunity to shoot Jinx but doesn't, simply because Vi begs her not to with a simple look. Also, in the trailer we hear her say one of her 3 objectives is to locate Jinx, not kill or incarcerate. So we assume that she's determined to make sure Jinx gets the necessary help she needs, or at least get preferential treatment in the facility where she would be put behind bars. Cait is indeed immensely caring towards Vi, as we've seen them so far. So let's hope the writers take this beautiful route out, although I don't really believe they will. After Vi and Jinx's confrontation at what supposedly is the end of Act 1 Season 2, they capture Jinx, but later on Vi betrays Caitlyn and aids Jinx in escaping, or manipulates Cait into not setting sufficiently strong measures to contain her, which leads to her escaping. Caitlyn resents Vi for preventing her from doing her duty to the city, and blames herself, which makes her grittiness increase even more. Vi and Cait have a fallout, with Vi blaming herself and being consumed by guilt and fear, and not finding purpose in anything anymore, seeing she can't help either of the 2 women she loves. Helping one is betraying the other. Something major happens during the war that pushes Vi out of hiding, or maybe even Jinx comes looking for her, and when she sees the level of destruction that's swallowing the cities, she decides to join forces with Caitlyn in trying to prevent greater harm. She starts acting like a rogue enforcer for Zaun, and here is where we start seeing her get her appearance from the game. She helps Caitlyn maintain order but ultimately keeps a degree of separation from her and Piltover's goals. Even though in Season 1 she's characterized by this desire to ascend, this frustration of feeling inferior to Topside, I don't think her loyalties can shift 180 degrees to the point she becomes a devoted Pilty. So she mainly acts in Zaun and reckons with the fact that she's an enforcer with the knowledge that she works alongside Caitlyn. She cannot reconcile with her sister either, unable to accept her acts of violence. So she tries to prevent her from doing more harm, but ultimately not hurt her. She cannot fully take either side, and neither can Jinx or Cait. Jinx cannot accept her as she's not fully committed to her revolution against Piltover, and Cait cannot accept her either because she cannot decide on a definitive stance against Jinx. The theme of this scenario is loneliness, with all three women working separately, isolated, yearning for connection with the other, but unable to reconcile with their differences and values. There are many different ways in which Cait can betray Vi, or at least conveniently retain information from her. In fact, the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I became at the idea that so many things can go wrong. Hopefully the writers will not morally degrade our girl Cait to the ground. For example, she could get knowledge of Jinx's happenings without Vi knowing and not tell her because of a partial lack of trust. She could share only partial truths with Vi, hiding her ulterior motives. Maybe she promises to get Jinx help, but she believes she is beyond salvation and plans to incarcerate her for life. She can retain key information from her lover. Maybe she catches clue of Jinx being able to find a middle ground with her sister, but does not share that information with Vi, being afraid that it might sway her in her determination to capture her sister and bring her to justice. In the trailer, we see this moment when Vi is supposedly lying to her. In this moment, Caitlyn might not believe her, but she pretends she does, just so that they can carry on the mission together and maximize their chances of catching Jinx. Vi might not be aware Cait was waiting in the shadows to intervene in the cave scene. Cait might be there because she did not trust Vi to finish the job, so she intervenes at an inopportune moment. And in a mirroring of what happened in Season 1, when there was a chance of reconciliation between the sisters, Jinx once again feels very attacked and recoils beyond return. If they do capture Jinx and have her in custody, Cait might not keep her promise to Vi to prevent police brutality against her, and Jinx suffers, escapes, and returns with a rage tenfold. Cait might not do this on purpose, of course, that would be too far out from her character. But it could happen due to negligence. Maybe it's in Cait's interest to retain Jinx in custody, perhaps to have something to wager against the Camp Barons who seem to have formed a different faction in Zon. She might not tell Vi this for fear of losing her advantage. Any of these scenarios will most likely lead to Vi turning against Cait. Old wounds will be reopened and ancient hostilities reignited. In this case, a reconciliation between the two is even more difficult, because Cait's motivation for betraying Vi are not as hefty as Vi's. So Vi will maybe join Echo's faction. I don't think she can ever join her sister's side because violence is against her principles. So she might start working for liberation from oppression from Piltover, or fight against Jinx's destructive forces. Or even act as a standing cop for Zon so the city can avoid the presence of the topside enforcers. This does beg the question, what motivation would Jinx still have to wager war against Piltover if Vi was turned against Cait? Let's look at Jinx's motivation for that. First, break Vi and Cait apart. We know Jinx sees Cait as mortal enemy number one and the main cause of all of her present sorrows. In her mind, this is her way of getting her sister back. Second, continue Silco's legacy by waging war against Piltover. And third, protect her sister. The love between them runs so deep, and even though Jinx is incapable of externalizing it in a healthy way, I do believe her instinct will always be to protect her. Unless it's her who's hurting her, of course. And we do see this shift in roles in the poster as well. So in the case where Vi would be working as an enforcer down in Zon, estranged from Caitlyn, Jinx's only motivation would be the memory of her adoptive father, and of course her new identity as Jinx that we see her choosing at the end of Season 1, that she coalesces with the dying wishes of Silco. Now back to Vi and Caitlyn. If we look at their motivations once more, it seems like a lot of the unanswered questions hinge on the way that Caitlyn will decide to conduct herself. What will be more important to her? Her duty to the city, to her deceased mother, or her love for Vi? We see them align in 2 out of their 3 main motivations, with one major conflicting one, of course. I don't see any possibility of Vi's order of motivations changing, as I don't think she'll ever be able to put Caitlyn before her sister. But Caitlyn's are still up for debate. So if we have a look at this graph of Vi's motivation with protecting her sister as maximum intensity, it depends what Caitlyn chooses as her leading motivation. If she gives maximum intensity to her desire to stay with Vi, her other two reasons fall on secondary places, and there is a good chance of true reconciliation between the two. If, however, she chooses that her duty as sheriff is the most important to her, there will be several bumps in the road, as Jinx is enemy number one and primary leader of the Civil War with a cult-like following to her name. Even so, this scenario still contains a possibility of Vi and Caitlyn working out their differences, because there could be several plot-heavy solutions to be found in dealing with Jinx. In this scenario, Vi and Cait's motivations still actually align. But if Cait chooses to give in to her rage and grief, fueled by Ambessa Medarda and by circumstances, there is little space for reconciliation. This is the inflection where their motivations collide. This is where they clash the most. And because this part deals with events that happened in the past, it can only be solved by forgiveness. One of the main writers on the show, Amanda Overton, did indicate that forgiveness will be the main theme of the new season. She also discussed how the main driver in Cait and Vi's relationship is fighting for it. Fighting hard. Vi, out of inertia, because it's all she ever knew how to do, the only way to ever get anything she wanted. Caitlyn, by conscious choice. If the two decide that they are worth it, there will be a great deal of fighting for it needed, from both sides. Let us hope this is the route the writers choose in order to soothe our anguished hearts. In the meantime, thanks for watching and happy waiting.